Wednesday, and so you know what time it is? It's Fashion Wednesday time with me, your fashionable host, Diana Edinam Kumbey. You know, anytime you want to have a session, you want to get closer to certain people like designers, like beauty influencers, stylists, fashion models, photographers, whoever it is. So far as they are in the fashion industry, I've got you covered, and I will bring you closer to them. So if you're excited about beauty, fashion, and lifestyle, this is the show for you. Today, we'll be having an amazing discussion with the owner of Ajepomaa Design Gallery. And I'm particularly excited about this one because of colors. Honestly, I went on her page, I saw colors, I fell in love, and I said, no, I need to have her on my show. And so, hi, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling fabulous.
You look fabulous.
Thank you.
I said it off air. I said it that I love your earrings. I love the look, the cuts on the skirt.
Yeah.
See, I've been admiring this outfit.
Thank you.
Before we even get into it, can you tell me about the outfit and why you decided to choose this particular one for the show?
Well, this is from our holiday collection, Dadieso, 2023.
Okay.
So this was last year holiday. So what I love about this is the structure, the texture. It's a Nigerian Ashoke print called the basket weave, and there are two versions of it. So I just did a combination of it. It stands out. It's African. It has an architectural feel to it, which I love. And of course, I mean, with our brand, we are known for our African aesthetic. We have a bit of Asian influence, you know.
I was going to mention that it seems like you like to do a lot of collaboration. So, because your designs, you blend African textiles with Asian origami.
Yes.
I hope I
yes,
techniques and Western trends. Tell us about that. Why that type of, you know?
Well, my fashion background is from Asia. I went to school in Singapore, so I stayed in Asia for 4 years.
Interesting.
So my first job was actually in Singapore. I went to LaSalle College of the Arts, so that's where I went to school. So that is where my inspiration is driven from.
Okay.
Of course, as time went on, I moved to the West. So I worked in New York for another 4 years. I chose to work in retail because I wanted to come and make an impact, you know, in our economy, because Ghana is home and there's no place like home.
Yeah.
So I had to bring what I had learned home, and hire people, boost their creative economy.
Right.
So that's what I've done for the past 14 years. I started from Joyce Abbey, to be specific. I was 17.
Interesting.
When I started fashion.
So you've just, that has
Yes.
been what you've loved from the beginning.
Yes, it's later on that my friends from primary school at JSS are like, look, you've always been like this. So I actually was like, really? But yes, I've always been like this. So from a very young age, I knew what I wanted to do.
Right.
My path was quite clear for me. But as time went on, you have to harness on your talent.
Yes.
And then pick it up from there. So there was no time wasting and trying to figure myself, or I knew I wasn't going to do corporate. I knew I was going to do business. I knew I was going to do fashion. So yeah, it's that type of thing that thick or thin we are in it. So
How do you keep being inspired to create? Because again, your designs are not straightforward. It's not even just one fabric that you're using. You're using a blend of different things. How do you keep getting inspired?
Well, first, my environment inspires me a lot because I genuinely believe that having lived on two continents, I've gotten a feel of what is aesthetically African and what to be proud of and what the world hasn't seen. You see, so it's good that we highlight what we have, because we have our kentes, we have our showcase, we have all these, we have our fugu, we have different textures that we have on the African continent that the world really knows, right? So as much as the West has a huge impact on fashion, having 4 fashion capitals in the world, I think it's Africa's time And I'm very proud to be a person of such a movement, because I feel like there's so much talent on the continent, so much talent, and we come with a lot of vivaciousness. So why hide it? So for me, I like to call myself a maximalist because
honestly, so my next question was going to be, why the colors? Because a lot of people would like to, you know, do monochromatic looks. You just have one thing and then you focus on it. But when we look at you, if we're looking at your outfit today, I'm seeing pink, I'm seeing blue, I'm seeing, it's a mix, but it works.
Yes.
So why, what makes, is that how you've always been? You've just loved colors?
Yes, because there's so many colors on the spectrum, 250 colors on the color wheel, and we are sticking to what?
Black and brown.
Black is still a color. It's still a good color. It's just that right now it's different.
Okay.
So that's how come the world is going with the monochromatic. But mine is there are 256 colors. So hey, let's play around with it. No matter what, we blend them, you know, we blend it with texture, mixture, but it still has to make sense.
Yes.
You get what I mean? So whilst you are playing around with it, you don't want a situation where it's not complementary. It's you know,
exactly.
Color when blended too much can also be offensive to the eye.
Yeah.
So you need to work it right.
Yeah. So I've been having conversations with some fashion people, and the thing that keeps coming up is sustainability and the importance of even fashion designers to be sustainable. So how do you balance being innovative and being sustainable with your designs?
I would say in Africa it's very easy to be sustainable. In the West it's quite challenging because you are working against volume. So you set up a brand, you are trying to reach a market of what, 300 million, 60 million. So it's huge.
Yes.
And it's competitive out there, right? So you are trying your best to have like maybe one design, have like 10 different or 20 different as a minimal, because some of them go as high as like 200 pieces, 1,500 pieces and whatnot. So it becomes a challenge. But in Africa, what I like about it is because a lot of our textures, I'm talking about the African textures, not the Dutch wax prints per se, but I'm talking about like the batiks, the, you know, woven fabrics, like what I've mentioned earlier, like what I'm wearing right now.
Yes.
It takes time. It's craftsmanship. So it's that type of thing that when you're wearing it, you are proud to wear it because it's authentically us. It's not someone who influenced it. It's not someone who presented it to us. It's authentically us. So that is why, you know, it becomes easier to sustain because you know that, okay, you're supporting a small village, a small economy. It's still small, but at least you're supporting a livelihood. Whereas when it's mass production, it goes straight to a factory and then, you know, whatever we do, the rest is like kept as dead stock. The beauty about our open markets, which Makola is right now the largest open market in West Africa when it comes to fabrics, we bring in a lot of dead stock. So it's not like a woman go to China or go to Turkey or go whatnot and be like, hey, I want this particular print.
Selective.
I want, do you get what I mean? They go to the factories and like, what do you have? Do you get what I mean? So we sort of offload off the factories in a sense to produce for our market, which in a way is like sort of, I don't call it recyclable. It's sort of like upcycle, like we bring the fabrics and the garments back to upcycle it. The only challenge we face as Africans is when they bring their bales, some of them are just rubbish.
Yes.
So that is where, it's the vetting process of, okay, this bill that you've brought, this one is good. The rest, because I know that in Philippines and Vietnam, in Singapore, a couple of countries that were taking the the rubbish and the dead stock or whatnot from the West. Right. But after a while, in China, of course, after a while, it became too much that they had to literally send the containers back because now it was polluting their world. So that's what I'm hoping that us as Africans or we in the fashion industry can be very aware of, as much as we want the dead stock because of course they sell it to us at a more reasonable price point and whatnot. we need to be very well aware of what it's doing to our environment in that sense.
Right.
So in Africa, it's not about the pollution of our waters with chemicals and whatnot.
It's fabric.
The dead stock that is washing on our shores, because that's where they dispose of our garbage. Yeah.
So interesting, very insightful. But so Ajepomaa Gallery's design studio. 14 years.
Yes.
What have been some of your challenges in getting to this point?
For me, I'll say that when I started the industry, I was very young. I was 27 when I started my business. Yes. My relatives used to look at me like, hey, Mama said she's doing a little business. You know, they used to
well, this is the little business.
They used to be like, oh, she's doing her own thing. That's a fashion thing going on. And I remember I used to have challenges with clients. They come and, you're like, okay, so I'm doing this, so this is my price point. And I'll say it in Tree and translate it. Hey, they used to tell me stuff like that. I'm like, I've calculated the inputs, I've put in, the craftsmanship, I've done all that. So I'm quite sure of what I'm putting out there.
Yeah.
And I want people to understand the process that goes into producing garments. You see, when people walk into your studio or your shop, they see a sales girl, they see you, maybe one, and they think that is it, right? But there's a whole factory setup that supports it. We are at an SME of 14 to 15 employees so far. So which means I am sustaining 14 families.
Yes.
So when you come and you see an outfit and we mention price, you are sustaining 14 families. It's not just me, myself, and I. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have to explain that to customers for them to understand that this is what it is. I've also grown along the journey. I've made some mistakes along the journey, of which I've also grown from.
Yes.
The beauty about our industry is there's always room for growth. You can be 80 years and still do design. That's the beauty. We don't have a retirement age to the design process. So you can Sonia Reichel was 80, Vivienne Westwood was 80, So far as you are, supporting the creative economy, then it's all good. And what I love about the journey is that now I get to also nurture the talents coming up. Yes, because you don't want to be, I've witnessed what the past designers, famous designers in our country have done, and I've realized that it gets to a point where you have to nurture them because they are creative, they have ideas, they have visions, they have dreams, and you need to support that, but you don't want to also view it as competition or anything, because the world is ever evolving and adaptability is the language of success.
For new designers that are upcoming, that's one of the things that you want them to focus on, your niche.
Yes.
Know who exactly you are working for, and then create your entire brand around that.
Yes. So here's the catch to young designers, right? I always tell them that you should first of all know why you're here. You wake up in the morning, you should go out there believing the visions that you get in terms of the designs and creativity that you get. Believe it, because it's from God. So there's a reason why you're here. The reason why designers keep coming every day is because God wants more design and color on this planet. So, and they keep coming. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you come, don't feel that you're not enough. This thing that I'm doing. And because that is what brings about copying. There's no need. Whatever you're doing, just perfect it. So what people are afraid to face is the criticism when they become their authentic self and put their work out there. So if I've done this, yes, go through the process where people are like, what the hell is this? Go through it and then come and sit back and you're like, no, I can prove to you that I am just as good.
Yeah. And
then keep at it. Don't stop. For me, I walk up and down the Ibri Mountain on Saturdays. I do it from 4 to 6 o'clock, right? And I see some women trying to lose weight, but then along the way they stop to catch their breath. Don't stop. No matter how hard, take the next step. It doesn't have to be brisk. Just take the next step. Keep at it. And then that's what builds consistency.
Yeah.
And that's what also builds confidence, because each time you're like, I struggled to get this. And now I think I'm good.
Yeah.
And then you put it out there again till someone goes like, oh, I like that. Because you need to realize that family and friends, that's not why you're here. They are just to support your emotional being, but that's not why they are not here to support your vision and your business. So they are the people who support your vision and your business. There are 9 billion of us.
You seem like you're speaking from so much experience when it came to the criticisms.
Yes.
What did you go through?
Well, I think when I came on board, I'll say there was a bit of naivety when I came, and sometimes you know what you have, but you put it out there. Sometimes it doesn't hit. Sometimes it hits. But that's what I'm saying. Don't you see? A lot of us will just then focus on what didn't work. Whether it worked or it didn't work, just keep at it.
Yeah.
Whether someone came on social media and said, "What is this? Oh my God, it's over." Just keep at it.
Yeah.
Because I've had customers who were in doubt. They came, they bought, one or two that, they're like, they're not sure, they wear it, then people compliment them. That's when they get the belief.
Right.
So keep at it. You have those customers too who come in and it's like, well, you're not like this person. So there's that comparison. No problem. Don't take it to heart. Don't take it. That's how they feel.
Oh
and
my
it's genuine.
God.
Don't take it to heart. Keep at it. One day, there's been so many seconds now I can't even count. You'll be standing here and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe she's back.
Okay. Yes.
There's that thing where maybe for 3 years you didn't see them. Then all of a sudden it's like, hey, Ajepomaa, do you remember me? I'm like, yeah.
Of course I do.
I'm like, oh, of course. She's like, oh, I saw something. Because you kept at it.
Yes.
First, there was no belief. Now there's belief. Same with family members. They'll sit us, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, you make one big strike and it's like, oh, I saw this thing. My friend said it's nice, so me too. Do you get what I mean? So don't stop.
Yeah.
Keep at it to the point where now you don't need the compliments to fuel you and energize you.
Yeah.
You are going on your own rhythm. The only thing with fashion, you have to be tunnel visioned. You cannot listen to everybody, or else you procrastinate, you hit an artist block, and you'll be stuck.
What's your creative process like?
For me, I'll tell you, I'm a nocturnal. I'm an insomniac.
You can't sleep. How do you live?
So at 3 a.m., I'm wide awake. I am wide. When I say wide awake.
So when do you sleep?
So I think I crash after I put my kids to bed. So we are looking at 8, 9.
Oh, but that's fine.
Then
9 to 3.
Sleep, yes. So then it's like 2. So from 9 to 2, then 2 I'm awake, right? That's when I research.
Okay.
My research game is hard. So I'm researching. I'm looking at it. Okay, I like this detail. I put it down. I settle it. I write the detail. I am nuts when it comes to research, right? So then now, after I've done my research, then I think my strength is also sourcing.
Okay. Sourcing fabric and
fabric. I'll go into a hole. You're like, and what I love about Makola, sister, DHE. They are like, what am I going?
They'll take it to some corner.
And they're like, oh my God, this is it.
I know.
Yes. And then, so when you're sourcing, especially in Ghana, let's say when you go to like Asia too, when you go to Dubai, when you go to China, all those places, it's like, oh, follow me. Follow me, and you find these cool things. So you have to be adventurous to get that. That's how come people can't necessarily pinpoint my fabrics, because I am crazy.
So 14 years again, can you share a memorable, like a highlight for you?
There's been a couple.
Okay.
For me, what I'll say is Ghana has been good to me.
Oh.
through the highs and lows. I think from 2013 to 2015
Okay.
was intense for me. It was that type of thing where I had to let go of workers. So it was pretty intense for me. But what I can say is that no matter what, where you started is not where you'll be. So always focus on the present. When you keep looking at the past, because some people's glory started in the past, so maybe they shut up and now
then
they've plateaued. And now all they can do is look back because that's when times were great, which I think is typical African behavior. We always look to the past. Oh,
do you know
I
what
always
this
say this
reminds
when it
me
comes
of?
to politics. Crazy. They say that,
Time.
what, how would I even put it? They'll be like, Charlie, Mills time, they're not Ghana, yo. Mills time. Kufuor time, not Ghana, yo. Kufuor time. Rollins time, there's no other. Oh, a champion time. We are always looking to the past. I say, as a black race, I'm like, we need to
Do you know what I'm thinking about? You know, secondary schools. Even though some of them are not doing so well now, they keep saying, "Oh, I don't want to mention schools' names."
Yes.
But like we keep highlighting it because it's past glory. But when you really think about it, right now they're not.
You need to realize that if, let's say, we were to put your model, your being, in, like, let's say maybe them through in a year 2021, you'll never get that time back. So why focus there? You've left that address. You're no longer there. So focus on the present and make the present beautiful. So the future, now when you look back, you're like, that time was good. And you keep it moving. Do you get it? So the future is better. But we rather focus on the past, ignore the present, and panic about the future.
Yes, and panic.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
And panic about the future.
Yes.
It's been an interesting conversation. I'm not letting you go just yet.
Okay.
But give me one word. If you could describe Ajepomaa fashion, give me one word you'd use to describe it.
For me, I would say that the Ajepomaa Gallery woman is confident. I'll say that she's eclectic. I'll say that she's, is authentic in who she is. I would also say that, because with me, when I design, I kid you not, I design for all ethnicities, but I always have Africa in mind. So Africa is part of the brand's DNA, so it will never leave. So as much as there are people using other more Western fabrics, Africa is the center of our brand.
Africa is the center.
Africa
and art.
Yes,
They are the
center. Every piece has to be artistic.
Honestly, I've seen it.
Yes.
That's why we are here today. Every piece is artistic.
Yes. If it doesn't, it's not sculptural, it is a painting. So every piece has to be artistic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So guys, she doesn't know this yet, but we're going to do a quick fire round. I'm going to give her 2 different options, then she will select the one that she wants and all of that. So do stay tuned. Okay, people, thank you for sticking and staying. Right now, I'm here with Ajepomaa, and she is coming to answer some of my 10 questions. I'm just giving her 2 choices. Quick thinking. You choose one, and maybe explain why you choose that one. Okay.
That's afterwards.
Right now. So when you answer, then you explain why. Okay. So classic black or vibrant colors?
Vibrant. I played with the African print because it's basically all Western, but then with a hint of African print. And I like the, juxtaposition of volume versus, detail. So basically it's a simple mod cut, dress, right, that you can wear, and I had customers who've had it in their wardrobes. I still have some customers who sent me pictures from this, and I had to redo it in other colors. So yes, this is basically one of the first pieces that I started with.
So when you look at this and you look at, let's say, what you're wearing right now, how does this make you feel?
Well, you see, the beauty about, like I said, the design process, right? There's growth. You don't see growth till you look back, right? And I get to see that at that time, it was more to do with me showing off the African print than a signature.
Okay.
So at that time, I hadn't yet sat down to really build on my signature yet. The confidence hadn't erupted yet.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've been playing. And one thing about me, when I'm done with a collection, I'm done. Because the ideas are ever growing.
Right.
So some brands is working for them. Maybe they have one silhouette, they'll just wear it out.
Yeah.
And that's them. I respect that. But I am that type of individual. I easily get bored. So it's so bad that sometimes a customer will come, they'll refer you to the archives, and I'm like, okay, so the factory will deal with that. Because I don't want to deal with it. And then I am rather looking forward to the new ones that I'm creating. So that's basically what it is. Yeah.
So speaking about the newer ones that you've been, talk us through your collection, the most recent one.
This one basically is something that I did from last year. Okay, it's been modified.
Okay.
So it's a simple kimono-like jacket, right? So it has like the drop shoulder, and this fabric is also ashoke. It's also hand woven. It's hand woven Lurex threads. It's beautiful. It wears well, and it has structure. That's what I love about it. So this belt is to sort of cinch the waist, and it has the origami detail. This is what we call the diamond origami. Where the drama is in this jacket
is the back, baby.
Is the back.
Yes.
So basically, the back has the larger origami motifs. And of course, in our climate, we need to breathe.
Yes.
So we use the basket weave with the holes in it so we can breathe in it. So basically, and of course, we tie it up with the batik.
Okay.
Right? So then it's all African. It can be worn on a Caucasian woman, Asian woman, Indian woman, and it's so elegant. It's a statement piece. So this the kind of piece you wear, and it's a conversation starter.
Yeah.
I love that. But you get that, and then you can introduce yourself. So yes.
Oh, I like the way your mind works. I like the way your mind works. I love fashion, God. I love designers.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for being on our show. It's been such an amazing, insightful insightful conversation. And again, your pieces.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank my team because it's a one woman's effort.
Yes.
So yes, the creative team too is doing a fantastic job. The production team too is doing a fantastic job.
Yeah. Okay, but guys, that's about it for today's Fashion Wednesday. My name is Diana Edinam Kumbey. You can find me on my socials at diana.kumbey. My outfit was made by Nana_Afoba. How can people reach you?
Well, my Instagram handle is Ajepomaa Gallery. We also have a website, which is ajepomaagallelyllc.com. You can also find us on Ajepomaa Gallery, Facebook, on TikTok.
Yeah. So Ajepomaa Gallery everywhere. Yes. Just search for us.
Yes,
you find us. Yeah.